Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back. We've concluded talking about basically every Star Trek and Star Trek adjacent film. That was a spoof. You know, that's very within the vein. So it was a nice kind of transition. So now we're going to a galaxy far away in a time long, long ago. We're off to talk about Star Wars films, which is exciting for me. I don't know how Lily feels, but
I'm excited.
yeah.
If I say anything that upsets anyone, this is just my PSA right now. If I say anything that upsets you, it's just my opinion. You are more than welcome
Yeah.
to like any of these films, any of them.
Don't
However,
ruin our lives
exactly, don't ruin
over
my life
it.
because I have an opinion about a movie that is fictional.
Yeah.
There,
We'll talk
I'm
about
not.
some ruined lives in this movie.
Yeah, we'll also talk about the trail of bodies Star Wars has left behind in its
Yeah.
wake.
And it's not
Like a
done.
tsunami.
It's
Oh
not
yeah, it's
done.
not done. It's not done. Yeah, so before you judge me, maybe look at yourself in the mirror. That's
Yeah,
all I'm
exactly.
saying.
Because the body count's not even done yet. And when we talk about Jar Jar Binks in this, it's really kind of prescient because Star Wars just had to come out and say, "Hey, don't be racist to our actor in our newest TV show."
Yeah, where were
How
they
about
20
that?
years ago?
They kind of just, well, to be fair, like they weren't owned by Disney at the time,
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. I will give them
so it was like a Lucas
that.
thing. But I do have some fun quotes from Lucas about some of the depictions of people in this film. So maybe there was just a kind of like, what do you mean? It's not a problem. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
So there's a lot to talk about with this movie. There's a lot to talk about. So I think we should
Yes.
start by saying that this is probably one of the most anticipated movies of all time. I think the only thing that comes close,
Mm.
and it's probably surpasses it, actually, is Endgame.
Yeah, I would say yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
But in this, the internet was a thing, but it was a thing for, it was still shitty and slow, and people were really just talking about Star Trek, honestly. um it's not
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of
people,
that.
yeah, it's not like people went on the internet and watched the trailer, really. So I know there's a story of, like, whatever movie the trailer played in front of, like, people went to see that movie just to see the trailer. So there was a
Wow.
real strong hype around this movie. And again, this
Yeah,
is
it was a
probably,
cultural moment.
yeah, it was a huge moment. Huge moment. So like this movie was highly, highly, highly anticipated at the time. Unlike anything else. And like, again, like they had, George had done a good job of, like, it got re-released in the 90s. They re-released every film. I remember seeing at least Return of the Jedi when it was re-released. Now again, these are it's more stuff that's pissed people off. People should have seen things coming, because once he did the re-release and there was all these changes that had been made, people started being like, "Well, hey, like that's really weird," or like, "Hey,
That looks like shit.
yeah, this whole Mos Eisley scene where there's these aliens and shit, and there's like, they didn't like, some people didn't like it.
Oh, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, if you want to throw in like a few extra like aliens and stuff like that, like that's totally fine. Like, I don't care about that.
yeah.
What I hate is I hate the scene in A New Hope
Oh, job.
with Jabba and Han
Yeah.
Solo. I'm like, so you're literally just repeating all of the dialogue that he just had with Greedo? And Greedo's in the background of this scene?
I don't
Unless
mind
that's
that one.
another one. Unless that's another
Yeah,
one. Well, it also like at one point Han moves
but I understand.
behind
Yeah. Well, have you seen
Jabba
the
at one
original?
point. It's just
Have you
oh,
seen the
my
original too?
family I haven't seen that, but my family owned the VHSs before they got
Hmm.
remastered and added
Yeah.
all this other stuff. I wish I still had them, honestly.
Yeah, because like, so Jabba the Hutt was a fat Scottish dude. And
Okay.
so it's him, yeah, and so it's him and Han, and he walks behind him because he's just a dude. He's
He's
not
just
a worm, he's a dude. He's a fat Scottish dude. He's a
It just
fat
looks
dude with Scottish accent.
bad. It just looks bad.
It doesn't, like, I like that they repurposed it because, again, it kind of, I mean, and then we get into this other problem where you start sticking Boba Fett in every scene. It's like, well, you didn't have to do that. Boba Fett was fine because this is a whole, like, again, we get into a whole nother thing. But like Boba Fett was just like a dude who, like, the original idea of what made Boba Fett cool was that he was just like the ultimate bounty hunter. He was like the guy you called to do the job. He wasn't like a dude who worked for Jabba the Hutt. He was like a bounty hunter, and he was really good at what he did. But
yeah,
then,
and I kind of feel like we got the impression of that without adding a whole bunch of extra stuff. Like in Return of the Jedi, honestly, I don't mind that there's a couple extra shots of him like flirting with some dancers or some gals at the bar. Like I don't care that that's there because the motherfucker's got swag. But like he didn't need. He did. I don't know. I feel like I thought Boba Fett was cool without all the extra.
Totally,
stuff, because I'm like, he's just there. But then you find out why he's constantly there. So it's it's just there's gonna be, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of we're gonna tailspin quite a bit.
I know, I know because there's a lot to talk about.
There's so much. A lot.
Yeah. So another fun thing that I read, so this film was like, it's really interesting too to like see how this film was made as opposed to like sort of the sequel films. So I think something came out in like 2015. Ron Howard talked about how George Lucas wanted him, Steven Spielberg, or like there was like another person, I forget who the other person was, to direct this instead of him, and all of them turned him down. He tried to get other people to write the film, but all of them turned him down, which I find interesting. That basically everyone was kind of walked away from it. Now, working, like, making a film is one thing. Making a film and having to work for George Lucas is another. Not to say that it's bad, but it's a different. You don't have the type of creative control. And ironically, it seems like on a certain level, there's almost more control in the Disney era.
Yeah,
on a certain level, or at least enough so that they could crash the ship into the ground if they wanted, basically. I mean, unless you're the Han Solo guys, which is another crazy story that we'll get to.
Do you mean when he said he wanted Ron Howard to direct it, do you mean A New Hope or A Phantom Menace?
A Phantom Menace.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that could have been way better, honestly.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is having someone in the room who's gonna be like, hey, this story kind of doesn't work. It doesn't have XYZ. And that's kind of the lack that's there.
Yeah,
that was always
George
kind
Lucas
of
is always, he's surrounded. I feel like he's always surrounded by yes men, or at least with the prequels, he was just yes men. Even if people were just like looking at a camera and being like,
yeah,
midi what?
Oh yeah, midichlorians. Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to work for George Lucas because I probably wouldn't say no to him either, because I'm like, oh shit, that's George Lucas. I'm on Lucas Ranch right now. Am I really gonna say no to him? He's giving me a lot of money.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, what people have to understand is like these films were basically independently created and financed by George Lucas. It wasn't really like a studio thing. Like, he was the studio. He owned all of the different things that created these films, like ILM and Lucasfilm. He had these relationships that basically went back to making Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back to actually produce these films. And so, yeah, I mean, the whole thing was him. The whole operation was him at this point, especially when you're doing these prequels. Now it's just that before, at least someone else was directing him and writing him. Now it's him doing everything, and he owns all the companies.
Yeah, so who will say no to him?
Yeah,
like, he's cutting all the checks. He's cutting all the checks. He's checking on payroll, and he's just like, yeah. Exactly. Can you give him another eye? Can you make him like say Jabba no Bunga a little bit more? Can you do that? I want him to talk like Jabba, but I want him to sound like an idiot.
Oh my god.
Like, that's what I want.
Yeah, and so I can see why there was a problem with a lot of the plot.
Maybe
Not
there
as strong.
was no one to say no to him, I guess. Yeah, it's not that so
Yeah,
much that he
I
was
mean,
surrounded by yes men. Maybe it was just if he's running everything, he has no one to report to.
he has no one.
Who's George Lucas gonna report to?
He doesn't report to anyone. He just asks
Exactly.
his
Like,
friends like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And they would say whatever. I mean,
yeah, this
it's very
like
hard because when you're a creative person too, like you have to like be sold on your own vision, because if you're the person who, if even you don't believe in what you're doing, the whole ship is gonna crash. You know.
yeah.
And it's hard because like once you're like actually making the thing, it's really hard to like there's no one. It's not like the random, like the guy, the electric person's like, hey, I think the plot's not working on this. It's not their place to like
No.
Intervene.
No, and honestly, they might not even care. I mean, the guy who's holding the boom for Ewan McGregor is probably just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm not even listening. I'm just waiting for them to call cut.
It's
like,
also like you're so far removed. It's not like they read a script or something.
no, they just know where they need to be. They just know where they're supposed to be or some shit.
Yeah,
like that's it.
Exactly. That's it. It's a job. It's a job.
Yeah. But someone in like maybe hair and makeup might be like, they want me to do what?
Yeah.
You want a braided ponytail and a buzz cut? I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that wasn't George Lucas's idea. I don't want to blame him for that. But I just
I know.
Oh,
The Jedi looks, the Padawan look is like very unique. Yeah, and so the other thing too is this film had an interesting reception. So like, when it first came out, there was a lot of fervor, people were very excited, and then I feel like the excitement sort of tapered off, and then there was an outright like hatred. I feel like by the time the second movie came out, there was a definitive feeling like, okay, the quality of these films is vastly worse than the original trilogy. And then George got the blame for it. Actually, honestly, I feel like that probably happened in between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Honestly,
probably. I mean, people were probably renting it again, rewatching it, buying it. DVDs were slowly becoming a thing with like extra features and behind the scenes. And here's George Lucas saying, I guess I better finish writing it. And people being like, what?
Like what? Oh,
you gotta finish writing what, George?
Yeah.
Because we are in pre-production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting too is like these films, they have a 3-year cycle. Because nowadays they pump this stuff, like the Spider-Man films, they pump them out every 2 years.
These
or
they film things back to back.
Yeah. The Star Wars films, like in the so 2015 to 2019. So it was like they were trying to make a film a year, and that kind of sputtered out pretty quickly.
I mean, COVID didn't help either, too. I mean,
well, fortunately for them, like COVID, they got hit with, like, when Carrie Fisher died, that really messed up the third movie. The third movie was supposed to kind of feature her more. But yeah, they got everything through before COVID. But again, when we talk about Solo, they fired the directors halfway through and then hired another person to basically reshoot the whole movie.
Yeah, didn't Ron Howard finish it?
He did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one I have mixed things. I have mixed feelings about Solo. Yeah. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I also feel like it has no place because it didn't tell me anything new.
No.
It didn't tell me anything new. The best part about it is his scenes with
with Chewie, right?
Well, Chewie and Donald Glover.
The Lando.
Those are the Lando and him, like, just the best. Like, you can get rid of his mentors, you can get rid of his girlfriend. I don't care if it had just been him and Lando. Like, I feel like it would have been a far superior film. Him, Lando, and Chewie.
Yeah, I mean,
and the robot, I forget her name.
Yeah, L38 or
L3.
L3. Okay. So yeah, the other thing too is like they did try to establish like another through line of stuff, but like they never continued with it.
No, they just cut the actor loose and said, "Here, fend for yourself now."
Yeah, exactly.
Like another body that.
Yeah, exactly. Another body.
His IMDb page. By the time I made my Solo review, he had nothing on his IMDb page after Solo. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not fair.
That's depressing. That's depressing. Like it
Like,
really is.
he didn't do a terrible job. Like he was okay. Like he's
I mean,
filling the shit of Harrison Ford. You expect him to be better than Harrison Ford?
I mean, and they did this. They decided to make this movie and cast him.
Yeah. This
Like,
was your choice.
yeah.
Like this oh. Yeah.
Yeah, because they even they even put this stuff in the press, like, oh yeah, well, they made him do like acting classes. They put that story out because they wanted to cover their ass and say, well, we tried, but we even gave him the acting class, it just didn't work. And it's like,
I'm pretty sure he was already probably taking acting classes before he even entered your sphere of relevance. Like that's not we gave him act. That's nice. Like
yeah,
that's
I know.
ugh.
It's I don't know. Yeah.
I hope he jumps over to Star Trek, honestly. I'd be fine with it. It's like just jump over to Star Trek, boob. It's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot in the water.
Yeah.
And although, yeah. It's hard to escape. It's hard to escape when you're a certain type of person in these genre films. You get the hate. If you're a black woman, you're gonna get the hate. You can do anything,
regardless.
you can do anything, and they will attack you for it.
Yeah,
like you exist, and they're mad.
Yeah, you can have short hair, long hair, braids, and afro. It doesn't fucking matter. You're gonna. It's offensive, apparently.
I know, yeah.
Really offensive. It's not like weird. Black women have been told to, fix their hair in high school, in middle school, in preschool, in pre-K. It doesn't matter. Like, apparently, I think they love hearing it at this point. It must be really great to feel good about yourself saying that. Must be really nice.
Yeah. So, I know. Like, isn't the fandom just be gross?
This is why, I mean,
this
is why I limit my fandom interactions, with the exception of doing this with you, because you're not a psychopath, from what I've gathered. We seem to be fairly like-minded.
Yeah.
This is the most I think I do. The amount of times I type out a tweet to people I follow, and I'm just like, I'm just not gonna, because even if I'm agreeing with them, or we also are like-minded, I'm like, they have so many people who follow them that just follow them to hate them, and I'm just like, I don't want to bring more hate to them, and I don't want to bring more hate to myself. And maybe that's cowardly of me in a way, but it's just, I also see it as self preservation.
Yeah.
And I don't need that.
Yeah.
So I limit it, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really toxic. And again, when what's the actor Jake Lloyd, the young Anakin actor? I mean, it fucked his life up. The hate that he got. It's like, what is wrong? Like, I can't imagine going after this kid. Like, what's wrong with you?
I can't imagine picking on any kid.
Yeah.
It's like, I just why though? What do you get out of being an adult? You know how cowardly you have to be an adult picking on a child.
Yeah.
In any capacity. You have to be really insecure to be mad at a 10-year-old for existing
over some made up fictional universe.
Yeah, there was a little BTS that popped up on Twitter of Jake Lloyd. He's being directed by George Lucas, and he's like, no, I don't want people to laugh at me. And I'm like,
I know, it's just sad.
Yeah, it's just sad. It's just not, I don't know what kind of monster you have to be angry at a 10-year-old. I mean, I know he's not 10 anymore. He's an adult, but he was 10 when everyone just decided to hate him. And obviously this is before anti-bullying campaigns and stuff like that, and people actually caring about child actors and their mental health and their psychological well-being, even though we had already gone through everything with Macaulay Culkin. Still didn't matter.
Yeah, or the Harry Potter kids.
Or the Harry Potter
kids. That hadn't happened yet.
No, actually, yeah, you're right. I think it was probably about to, because the first movie came out in the early thousands, and again, it's just, or now we're dealing with it with all the Stranger Things cast, even kids who were in Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
It's like who played Arya in Game of Thrones?
Macy Williams.
Maisie Williams or something like that. Yeah, I feel like people couldn't wait to sexualize her. I was
Oh,
like, this is so fucking disgusting. It's just
well,
like,
neither could the show. Honestly,
what was that?
neither could the show. Like the show, like in the last season, like they
Oh
couldn't
yeah,
wait to
yeah.
give her a
It was
sex
just like
like
I
one
just can't watch that. I just can't. Like,
but that I kind of I don't think they went the show didn't go that far, but yeah, the people did. The people are sick. They're sick and nasty.
I also just don't. I don't need to see Arya doing that. I just don't. I mean, obviously she's a woman. She's grown up. She's not a child anymore. But I'm just like, I don't need to. It's like watching my little sister. I don't need to see that shit. I don't want to see that.
The one that really got
Like,
me was like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That girl who was like she was like the daughter of Don Draper in Mad Men, and like to see
oh
them
yeah,
sexualizing her was like a real like whoa, this is this
yeah. Again, it's just. I mean, she's an adult now. She's an adult now. I mean, same with Maisie Williams. They're adults. They can choose to be in these scenes if they want to, or they can choose to have body doubles. I personally don't need to see it. But also in a show about teenagers who are horny, I don't think it's all that surprising to see them having sex.
yeah.
Like my mom and I got into it not long ago, or when that show was new, because I watched the first season. I never went back because I'm like, yeah, it's a teen soap opera. I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah.
Also, there wasn't enough Salem doing badass things, quite frankly. Anyway, and she was like, they don't do those things, and I'm like, excuse me. It's like, Mom, you've told me about all of the coke and quaaludes you have done. Please do not suddenly act like teenagers don't have sex.
Yeah, like that's like the bottom level.
Like you are a child of the 70s.
Yeah.
Don't go. I was like, I don't, Mom, don't.
Yeah, totally.
Excuse me.
Totally.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, like I said, a lot of tangents on this one. So, let's get into the plot of this. So,
please. Please.
So we have this opening crawl, and it talks about the taxation of trade routes, systems in dispute. Yeah, I'm serious. Like that's one of the first paragraphs.
No, I remember
taxation of trade routes.
I think I narrated that on my Twitter feed.
Yeah. The Trade Federation has stopped all shipping into the small planet Naboo. The Supreme Chancellor has dispatched 2 Jedi to resolve dispute. Okay, interesting.
I'm 10. What does that mean?
Like there was no way a 10-year-old was gonna understand that.
I will say, but sorry, I know we're getting into the plot, and I'm sorry. Another tangential.
That's all good. I mean, this is fun. This is the fun part.
Another tangential thing. I went and saw this in theaters. I saw it was a family event. 7 kids, 2 parents, and my uncle came with us.
Oh my god.
And after it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and you hear the ta-da! And like the Star Wars text comes up, everyone in that theater stood up and started screaming. Yeah. Everyone, including myself. This was like one of the few times I was allowed to start screaming in a theater. Actually, the only time. And it was an event. It was amazing. And I just wanted, So I have this is probably the movie seeing in theaters that I have the most memories of.
Yeah, I don't think anyone screamed at my theater, but I know that some people. Well, I mean, there was definitely cheering. Like once, and again, this is another thing that just like perplexes me. They got for some reason they decided to get rid of the whole opening crawl and some of these other like Rogue One and Solo. Like that is one of the most perplexing things to me because like that's what Star Wars is. Like there's nothing more Star Wars than the thing that and then like the thing flying and then the opening crawl.
Yeah, I mean like I'm fine with it for movies like Rogue One or a Solo Story because they're supposed to be set. Maybe the opening crawl is just for the Skywalker storylines. I'm a little okay with it, honestly. It's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's a bad choice, but it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, all I remember was like, yeah, people did cheer at my theater, and then someone did like a Chewie impression that was very loud, and people laughed.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was very well done. It was very well done, and so, but we don't see Chewie in this movie.
No,
We do see
no.
some.
I don't know if it would have made it any better. But so yeah, so we have the opening crawl. We are getting into the
Yeah.
plot.
Yeah, the plot. Yeah, the plot. So, yeah, we see these people going onto the ship. Now, one thing I will say about this movie, and I think that this sort of opening is kind of emblematic of that, is like I think that this film, like, this is the one film where he tried to do things the way he had done it before in like Return of the Jedi. You can tell that they're doing a lot of things the old way before they just do everything in CGI. They use a lot of miniatures. They did things in a way that made it look and feel a little different. This movie feels different to me than Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Like those movies,
aesthetically, it is so vastly different. It looks like a completely different not genre, but entirely different franchise.
yeah, you can tell those other movies that it was like he was like, okay, fuck it, we're going green screen everything. And you can tell, like, okay, there's nothing there, there's nothing in like half the sets. Now there, you can tell there are some where they did that in this, but you can kind of see that a lot of them, it was at least something was real there, and then they had some green screen, especially like when they get to Coruscant. You can tell there was a lot of these interiors where they, the background was a green screen with all the flying, ships and stuff.
Yeah.
But like these scenes look and feel a lot different than what we're gonna get down the line. So at least for me, I kind of appreciate that. It just comes off more real, comes off better, using the miniatures and stuff like that.
Yeah, I prefer miniatures. I prefer practical effects. I mean, I understand why you need to use like CGI and stuff like that. Flying cars do not exist. Yeah. So like I feel like we obviously need to use it, especially if you want to like, I mean, Coruscant is such a unique planet. It's literally just a giant like city planet. So like constantly things are always in motion. It's like it's a planet that never sleeps. So you need to have that CGI and stuff like that. Yeah. But like I like a miniature. If you can use a miniature, why not?
And I think the Coruscant scenes are very well done. I think they're very well done, actually, in this one. So, yeah, I mean, I really like a lot of the effects in this film. I think that they did a really great job. And I think that it evokes to me the feeling of, the original trilogy. George, after that, was like, oh, people don't like it? Fuck it. I'm going to go green screen the whole way. I'm going to green screen everything.
It's like, George, I think you missed the point of what we didn't like.
Yeah,
I mean, you missed it a little bit.
At that point, he started thinking like, "Wait, I'm writing all the checks. So why don't I just do what I want to do? I'm going to do what I want to do." And he did that. It's his thing, and so he did his thing. Yeah. So okay, so there's these, these ambassadors or whatever. They're on this ship. They go onto this gigantic like mothership for the Federation, and we see that it's Qui-Gon, Jin, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, a very, very young Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Very, very young Ewan McGregor, yeah.
Yeah, very young. I mean, I feel like, when did he do, what was that other movie that he did?
Well, Trainspotting was like the one that really put him on the map.
Yeah.
By Danny Boyle, I think, directed that.
Yeah, that was 96. So, I mean, he basically, I don't know when they were shooting this thing. It was probably like 98. So he basically went from that to this.
That's huge for him, like huge. Yeah. And in between, he did movies like Moulin Rouge and like a whole bunch of other things. That's the thing. His star never stopped rising in spite of these movies.
Well, he was the best. I mean, the movies were never bad for him.
No, or Liam Neeson or Natalie Portman.
Or not. Well, yeah, Natalie Portman. I think she was another one who almost. I remember reading somewhere that she kind of like questioned her own. She had some imposter syndrome kind of shit. She questioned her own ability to act.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think she even went back to school. Like she went back and got a couple degrees. I think she's a very bright woman.
Yeah, she's very intelligent. She went to Harvard. She you know, I mean, she honestly doesn't even need this shit. Like she was in, what was that, Leon the Professional, like as a
Oh
young,
my
that was
god.
another, that is like one of the top, like it's a great performance, but like the reaction that people had to her in general was like fucking disgusting, honestly.
Yeah,
Like that,
considering that's not even like that's not even what I think the director was going for, honestly.
no,
It's
no,
not,
definitely.
it's a far deeper psychological issue that her character is dealing with than what people are projecting onto the
Yeah.
screen. It has nothing to do with her actually being in love. Her whole family was murdered.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Like,
she's a traumatized child, and then this
she's
person,
literally a traumatized child, and this is the only person who's not trying to kill her. Which actually, that scene when he goes into the bedroom and puts a gun to her head, he's going to kill her to get rid of her. Whether it's to like protect himself because this is bringing a whole bunch of heat on him, or just put her out of her fucking misery. Like, that scene is harrowing.
yeah.
Oh my god, I'm gonna watch that movie later. I fucking love that movie. Oh my god.
Yeah, movie's great, and she's amazing in it. And again, she got some real nasty. She like got, it's like there are these videos where they talk about, you can get into this weird cycle of child stuff in on YouTube, and like for a long time YouTube didn't do anything. Like she got into the pre-internet version of that. Like she got sucked into some nasty fucking shit. But anyway, so again, like these actors have had to deal with some fucking crazy stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of insane. But anyway, so okay, we got these two Jedi. They're on the ship. And now, okay, then we get into another kind of thing. So like these Federation guys, I forget what the race, the alien race is, but the way they're depicted with these fish-faced aliens that have a like very like, their mannerisms are very like East Asian. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about that. I don't really think that should fly.
No, I don't. I was very I didn't remember that. When I
Yeah.
rewatched these all like a few like last month, and I was just like, okay, Trade Federation aliens, and then they started talking. I'm like, oh my god.
It's like
Is this Mickey
unmistakable.
Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's or what?
It's kind of like that, except just with more makeup and more makeup.
Well, we can't, we're not actually making them, it's not that racist, is it? It's like,
And again, and they're the Trade Federation. They're these greedy like business people that are like,
I'm not comfortable with
manipulative.
it in the slightest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
They're greedy, they're manipulative, they're deceptive.
Mhm.
Um,
And they're also like, and the thing that's so like really kind of to me on the nose about it too, where you feel like, okay, this has to be kind of one of those stereotypes, is that they're also feckless and kind of weak when they're actually like in league with the real villain, which is Sidious. Because
oh
like,
yeah, they're totally subservient.
yeah, they're
They're
subservient.
incredibly subservient,
Mhm.
and it's so uncomfortable. And it's just I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah, because then they cower, when it's like the
Oh,
city.
appease the old white guy.
Yes.
Appease the old white guy in the shadows. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
But we
and
never
so
learn anything else about them. And we also never learn anything else about them. They're one dimensional. We don't
yeah, it's
care
like,
when they
why?
die. And we couldn't care less if whatever happens to them.
Exactly. It's like, why are they mad? Why are they doing this? Why are they invading this planet? What's
Yeah,
going on?
there's no answer like to like why.
Are
I
they just
mean,
greedy? Are they just greedy,
Palpatine's whole
fish
thing
people?
with Naboo makes no sense at all because he
Yeah.
wants her to sign the treaty. She doesn't sign the treaty. He's fine with it because he's going to take the planet anyway. But then he's like, I want that treaty signed. And then it's just like, but then they get Naboo back, and he's just like, oh, my plan worked. I'm like, what
Yeah,
was your
my
plan?
I mean, so
Nothing worked.
here's the thing. So the idea is that Palpatine wanted to start this conflict in order for him to become Chancellor, which happens.
Okay,
I
he
don't.
wins in that, but
Yeah, but I don't see why he cares about what happens on Naboo.
why does he have to keep putting on this front with the
I
Trade
know.
Federation? It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
He's just like, well, I'm taking acting classes and improv, so.
the only thing that makes sense with the Trade Federation is that, again, what we see later in the second film and I think even the third, is that he wants there to be constantly conflict. Like basically, he's setting up both sides of this war, so that he can gain more power. And at some point they gave him emergency powers, and the emergency powers never go away.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's almost,
exactly.
but it's still, but getting there is so convoluted.
It's super convoluted. It's super.
It's,
The whole plot of this movie kind of like doesn't make sense, and
yeah,
there's a lot of problems.
and I don't see the point of keeping the Trade Federation in the dark about his ultimate plan, because I feel like, I mean, yeah, only tell certain people what they need to know. You're on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know. Like, I get that element. I get
And
that.
he certainly
that
doesn't
sort of
want
thing.
anyone to know that he, the Dark Lord of the Sith, is actually Palpatine. Like the fact that even the Jedi don't know is very powerful for him, and he's able to use that to destroy the Jedi.
It's just a bad plan, though. Still, in my opinion, it's still
Yeah,
just
no, I
like,
mean,
I just.
I definitely think that like the way that they do all the things in this movie, the behind the like the puppeteering doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, man, we're still only like what 4
I
minutes
know
into the movie.
we're talking about the first 5 minutes of this movie, and we're 35 minutes into this review. But there's gonna be a lot to say. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Like, again, like you said, you watch this movie, and you see the way that they depict these fish-faced alien people, and it's like, whoa, this is not okay. Like, it's just it's
not
blatant.
okay.
Blatant. It is like a blatant like stereotype of. And again, this is like what's funny too is like that's not that far off from the sci-fi genre. The sci-fi,
Oh no, yeah.
bad stuff all the time. That's a bad thing. What's one of the bad things that kind of needs to go away.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
It needs to go away. So anyway, they send in this protocol. So they talk to Sidious. Sidious is like, okay, invade the planet, kill the Jedi. Okay. So then they send in this again. This is another thing, like oh, we cannot talk to the Jedi. I'm too scared. Send in the protocol droid. It's like they're so servile. These
Yes.
these people, so spineless and feckless. So then they expel this dark side gas into the room. They're like, oh, they're dead. Send in the droids to get their bodies, and then we see the two lightsabers light up in the mist. They destroy all these droids, which is cool. We see them do a force sprint. First time we've ever seen that. That was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, do we ever see it again? I know they can jump really high. They're like Samurai freaking Jack, but like it's
No, I don't think we ever see a force
sprint. I never knew what to call that, except I thought it was just bad editing, honestly. I thought it was just like
okay.
Someone spilled coffee on the monitor and was like, oh.
Yeah, no, that was supposed to be them like running really fast. Which I thought was
but no
cool.
one would actually know that, though. It's just
I mean, I remember as a kid thinking like, okay, like was that them running? Like again, they kind of there's this interesting sort of thing where there's like I think that he leaned more into the mystery of the Force in some like.
Yes, I will say that he did. I mean, even if it's bad, this is what I was saying in my video that I posted, where I was just like, the newer movies, like the ones, Force Awakens and everything after that, are like, yeah, they're not the prequels, but they don't do anything original. And what they do original is very minimal. At least the prequels tried to do something original, even if it was bad. And maybe that's why we don't revisit originality, because we tried it. Pretty scary. But I mean, at least the Trade Federation was something new. It created some conflict, but only because Palpatine was doing his dumb shit. And again, he did lean heavily into the mythology, as lame as it sounds a little bit in the movie. You can at least say he tried doing something. There was, I don't know. I'm grasping, honestly, at this point. I'm really grasping.
Yeah.
So
I mean, anyway, so yeah, they try to get their way through the blast doors, like they're using this was another kind of cool scene, like they're using their lightsaber to like melt the steel.
I mean, he's getting through. He's making progress. It's slow, but he's doing it.
Yeah. And then they send in these other battle droids. I forget what they're called, but they like have a personal shield.
I think Obi-Wan
They
called them
pull-
destroyers or something like
yeah,
that.
those are really cool too. Those are really cool. Very very cool. And they're the Jedi can't beat them, so they basically have to run. Then we see Queen Amidala like kind of communicates with these Trade Federation viceroys, and they're just like, oh well, now that the ambassador's here, you guys have to stop this invasion. Like, oh, we haven't talked to any negotiators, blah blah blah. And yeah, so basically the fix is in. They were gonna do this thing the whole time. They were gonna do this invasion the whole time, and the people in Naboo are kind of screwed over. Now I really like the way that they depict Padme and the way that she looks. Very well done. The whole way that they she has this thing where she has all these doubles, one of which is Keira Knightley, which is very cool. I think that the character is very well done. So that's just my 2 cents on it, on the whole thing.
Okay.
One of the one of the better parts. And again, like the costumes are very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, so basically they're they were in the like basically they stow away on some one of these invading forces to like get Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to get onto the planet, to get onto Naboo. And we see them on the planet, and the planet's being destroyed by these massive carriers that carry all these droids. And then, hey, guess who's there? Jar Jar Binks. And Qui-Gon saves Jar Jar's life. And we're introduced to Jar Jar Binks. So here's one thing I'll say about Jar Jar. So Jar Jar was a character that predated even like Gollum. So like this is basically the first motion capture character ever in like a film on this level. And I mean, the motion capture is good. I mean, and motion capture is something that completely changed the industry. Like there's no other way.
For sure. And
Like,
when you see what Ahmed Best really had on top of his head, like that looked heavy. That looked heavy as fuck. Like, oh man, like, and he's a tall guy.
He's already a tall guy. He's already
a tall guy. But yeah, it definitely. I don't think it's aged as well as Gollum, but only because I feel like the Lord of the Rings Gollum's just a completely different character. You know what I mean? It's gonna look a lot different. But I will say, like, I think for when it came out, it looked really good. I think it looked really, really good.
I think it's great. I think it's still fine, at least. I mean, it's not Thanos, or actually, to be honest,
yeah.
The best one still, I think, to this day is Davy Jones. Davy Jones was really well done.
Oh yeah, I just actually rewatched those 3 movies, the first 3 movies, because the last 2 were fucking trash.
Oh yeah,
and he looks amazing. He looks it looks phenomenal. And if you watch like any interviews with Bill Nye about being Davy Jones, he's like, I have no idea what he's like. It's an embarrassing amount of money that they paid me to look that ridiculous.
I know, yeah.
He's like, it was a lot.
When you see like what was really there was just him. It was actually really just him, and the VFX team did a ton of work.
Oh yeah, he was like, everyone else are wearing these really cool costumes, and Keira Knightley looks great, and Johnny Depp has his Jack Sparrow thing, and he's like, and I'm just in a gray onesie with dots on my face. Exactly. I mean, even Ray Fiennes had a black robe that he wore when he was Voldemort, but his was only his face, obviously. But yeah, Davy Jones looks phenomenal.
Yeah. It's really well done. Still to this day. And yeah, again, like this is some very like cutting edge stuff that was being done in this film. Now again, like I feel like the plot and the story kind of undersells the what we're doing here. But at least they were on to some really important stuff. And again, like there's they then basically made movies that were just the ideas that were set up in this film, in the post-production stuff. What was that movie? Forgetting what it was called, but they ended up doing a whole bunch of like all motion capture movies, Polar Express, and forget there was another one. I think they did like a Christmas Carol, like a Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah, with
Christmas
Jim
Carol.
Carrey, yeah.
Yeah, where he plays like 8 characters and it's all motion capture. Yeah. So now that we've gotten to Jar Jar, we should probably bring up Ahmed Best and the people's reaction. Now, is Jar Jar Binks a good character? Like, I think the characterization is like pretty. He's very annoying. He's like purposely annoying, and like too annoying. You know.
Yeah, there's comic relief,
Yeah.
and then there's just bad.
No,
Like, it's not his fault, but
not.
it's someone's
again,
fault.
yeah, it's someone wrote those lines. But again, like this ruined his life. Like this
Yes.
thing ruined his life. And you would think that this would be like one of the greatest things that's ever happened. You know, you get to be in Star Wars. I remember seeing him talk about like Michael Jackson wanted to play Jar Jar Binks. Like he was competing with Michael Jackson for this role.
Oh, he was probably competing with a lot of people for
yeah.
it. I mean, he was literally just performing in New York City. He was just a young guy, you know, just probably living paycheck to paycheck, living the starving artist, you know, dream, you know, concept or whatever. And then someone's like, "Hey, you want to be in Star Wars?" Wars.
Some casting director, and they're like, "Yeah, so you do this audition." He does the audition, and then you keep getting close to like getting cast, and you get cast, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing." Then you read the script, and you're like, "Oh, okay."
I'll trust whoever's in charge.
I'll do it, and then you do it, and then the fans fucking want to kill you.
Yeah, like, and then you're standing on the Brooklyn Bridge, ready to end your life.
You're standing on the Brooklyn Bridge, like that's actually the path that ended up. Now, thankfully for him, he didn't, you know, complete the act like a lot of people don't.
No, of course.
Thankfully, and you know, now he's kind of away from it, so that he has some perspective, and you know, like I don't know, it's just so fucking horrible that this guy felt any kind of way when he had no. It's not his fault. He had no control. He's just an actor. He's just a person paid to perform, and his performance is fine. The character is portrayed poorly. It's not him. It's not his fault. It's just it's like there's a real dark edge to a lot of this stuff. I mean, the fandom is like fickle, and the thing that sucks too, I really feel like, is that like the amount of negativity is like growing. It's not subsiding.
No, it's not going anywhere anytime
It's not going anywhere. And yeah, I mean, it's just not going away. It's not going away. They're more empowered than ever. I feel I feel kind of bad. Like people have been going after the young Leia from Obi-Wan too.
Why?
Because they're psychotic. Because they're fucking psychotic.
There's no reason to. There's absolutely no reason to go after like a 9 or 10-year-old. She looks younger than 10, honestly. But yeah, I just this is why people don't like you. Like, this is why people don't like you.
Yeah. And again, like, so Moses Ingram, who was on the Obi-Wan show, which is out right now, like, she actually posted a bunch of what people had sent her. I mean, it's just like degenerate, insane stuff.
It's like, yeah, she's not making it up. It's like she's actually getting horrible things said about her.
Yeah.
And then people were review bombing Obi-Wan after Ewan McGregor was like, "Hey, you guys suck.
Don't be
you're
racist.
Not a real fan. Yeah, don't be racist." And people started review bombing it. And I was just like, you know, that's not going to stop people from loving it or watching it, right? Because we've never cared about reviews from critics. Like, we don't care what Rotten Tomatoes actually. I don't give a shit what Rotten Tomatoes thinks about a movie. Like, I don't care. Like why? That's not going to stop me from watching or liking something. It never has.
And it's just like underscores there is a toxic part of the fandom. And I feel like it's always kind of been there. Phantom Menace kind of unleashed it in a way. Like, that was the genesis of it. The prequels kind of, because like there's criticism, and then there's like going after Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best and these other people, like actually going after them in any way that you can to like try and fuck up their life because they acted in a film, you know?
Yeah, it's just you have to be a real low life.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately in Star Wars, there's a lot of low lives in the fandom. There's a lot. There's a lot, and
Like, why don't
they're.
you go outside?
I know.
Like, paint a picture, take a class, take some Tai Chi,
Put that
yoga.
energy into anything else.
Yeah,
Anything else.
meditate on that shit. It's like, it's okay to have a hobby, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So yeah. So we're now with Jar Jar. Jar Jar the clown. Feels so bad. Like
Yeah.
the things that they make Jar Jar do, it's just like so silly. And like I don't know if there's any real redemption. Like I think the problem too is like there's no real redemption for the character where it's like, okay, at the end of all this buffoonery, here's a nice moment. We don't get that.
Yeah, they extremely limit his screen time. They show him in Attack of the Clones. They at least acknowledge that he's still around. He's not just gonna be disappeared or something like that.
I know.
But it's severely limited, and I think that's because of
The backlash, yeah.
the backlash. I don't think it's because they wanted to protect him. I think it's honestly just because of the backlash for the character. I don't think they gave a shit about him.
Yeah. So Jar Jar tells them about this underwater city. They're like, okay, so he leads them down there. And this is really cool. I really like the shot of like when we see the city when they're swimming towards it. And so this is where the Gungans live. They live like in this underwater city. Cool stuff. They get there and they're like, "Hey, Jar Jar, you're basically under arrest because he did something that they didn't like."
He's like a fugitive or some shit, but it's super petty. Oh, he's clumsy. That's why.
Yeah, he's clumsy. Yeah. I mean, basically, they just depict him as a constant fuck up. Like he's always fucking up something.
Yeah, and again, it's supposed to be comic relief, but it just comes across as annoying. Like
it does. Yeah, it really does. It's never. I don't know. So they're taken to this Gungan leader. This is another one. I saw another person. We'll talk about it later. Like likened these, especially like the head Gungan person, as like some kind of like an African tribesman. like this is another stereotype basically because he's like a fat toad dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're amphibians. I think I'm not entirely sure.
They do. Yeah. They're kind of like frogs or toads or something like that. Is what they're depicted as. And so basically, and we get this kind of interesting scene because like Qui-Gon's like basically the Jedi are like, hey, you guys are being invaded, and the Gungans are like, we don't care about them, we don't care about what happens on the surface, and Qui-Gon's like, well, what happens on the surface is going to affect you, right? It's like, no, we'll win. If we have to fight a war, we'll win. Okay, whatever. Qui-Gon uses the Jedi mind trick on the leader of the Naboo and gets them to like let them go, basically. But it's like you have to pass through the planet core, which he says very ominously, and then Qui-Gon like is like, oh yeah, by the way, this guy Jar Jar, I saved his life, so he owes me a life debt. So you have to like I have to become his ward or whatever.
It's like indentured servitude or some shit. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I mean, he's kind of used to that, right?
Man, I mean, that's pretty sad.
Being a Jedi, like that's kind of what happens. Like the Jedi life is someone takes you away from your family because you show special abilities. You can believe that. Like it's crazy.
And
it's
the baby over.
Yeah. Oh, you're force sensitive, so we're just gonna like take your kid away, like take them away so they can have no attachments and become a Jedi.
That sounds horrible.
That sounds horrible, right? But that's the Jedi way. So and so the three of them are going through the planet core. And again, some of these scenes are pretty cool, like this is where Qui-Gon's like, oh, there's always a bigger fish because we see one fish. Something kind of grabs their ship and then the fish eats it. That's pretty cool. And so they're like trying to surface on the other side of the planet where the Naboo are. So they're doing that. While they're doing that, the Viceroy again are talking to Sidious about the invasion, but they don't tell him about the Jedi being missing. So that's like another shoe that's going to drop. And their invasion is like they're successful almost immediately. They overwhelm them. and they take the queen hostage. Now, what's cool here is like this is like the first time where we see like the queen like always has a double, and we can see in this scene like it's not actually the queen; it's like it's the other person.
It's Keira Knightley.
Knightley, yeah. But and what's cool too is like then you get like get the sense like they all have this cadence the way they talk as the queen, so that no one can really tell because they're always talk the same, but they look kind of the same and they wear all the makeup, so it's like maybe hard to know who's actually who. So again, I mean, I like that stuff. I think that's well done.
Yeah, I don't mind the body double thing.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's really
I think it makes sense.
Yeah. So then the Jedi, they show up with Jar Jar, and we get this massive fight where they free the queen. They tell her, "Oh yeah, by the way, the negotiations never took place. They like immediately tried to kill us." And you know, like their plan is to make the queen sign this treaty that'll make the invasion legal. So that what they did is because they're basically their idea. Like I think we see at some point later in this sequence, like they jam their communication, so they can't like communicate with any of the other systems. And we'll also see later like the Senate, like the whole government has become very feckless. Like they're ineffective. They're not able to actually do anything, which is another problem. So even if they could communicate, like maybe they wouldn't really do anything. So yeah, I mean they're in a lot of trouble. Like this is like a way to put it. So like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon free everybody. They free these pilots, and so then the pilots are like trying to give them a way to get through this blockade so they can escape the planet. So we see them on this really cool like silver ship. The ship is really fucking cool. I really like this ship.
Yeah, it's like the Queen's yacht or something like that. But yeah, no, the design's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Design's cool. They're trying to get through this blockade. They're getting blasted. They deploy these astro droids. Like they all get killed except for one. I wonder who this one is. He's able to able to reinitialize the shields, and then they like they kind of like celebrate the droid, like, oh, this one droid like helped save us. What's his name? What's R2D2? Well,
oh my god.
Yes.
Which I think is just like everyone's like opinion keeps like swaying back and forth about droids. Like in Obi-Wan, everyone seems to just not give a fuck about droids except for Leia. And then in other ones, everyone's just like, oh, we don't like, yeah, they're totally just, keep killing all your main character droids. Who cares? Except for freaking C-3PO makes it out alive no matter what.
No matter what, yeah.
But L3 gets blown up. The assassin, the bounty hunter droid and Mandalorian sacrifices himself. And then I think there's one in Rogue One.
Oh, it's just well, yeah, K3SO.
K3, yeah.
He has to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, oh, but now we're celebrating this one droid because he did something cute or something. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, R2D2 is like I mean, he's like the droid basically.
I think R2's force sensitive, quite frankly, because these are sentient droids. Like they feel pain, they feel fear, they care about people. R2 is clearly a very loyal droid. I think he's force sensitive. Why else would he have like gotten out of so many bad situations?
I mean, he's definitely a special droid. I mean, he's probably like, yeah. I mean, he's one of the most interesting characters in this whole saga, and he's like the through line. Him and Vader, basically. That's the through line.
I think R2 always knows more than he's actually saying.
Yeah. So okay. So then the Viceroy is like they panic. They're like, oh no, what's happening? And they they call Sidious, and they're like, oh well, she escaped. She's impossible to find. He's like, not for a Sith. I'm going to have my apprentice Darth Maul find them. And this is when we see Darth Maul for the first time in this movie. I mean, Darth Maul is another thing very fucking cool. Like
I will admit I don't hate Darth fucking Harley. I hate Harley
I
Davidson.
know.
I don't hate Darth Maul's presence. I don't hate the way he looks. I think he looks as badass as he is. And that's the thing. There's actual payoff with Darth Maul. With a lot of things in these movies, there's very little payoff that actually feels like something has come to a conclusion. And I feel like Darth Maul like serves his purpose. Like he is there for a reason. I don't know if any hate got thrown his way or whatever happened to the actor who played him. I think wasn't he a stuntman?
Yeah, he's a stuntman. Yeah.
I don't know if
in all those scenes like where they're fighting, that's the actor.
He was in a lot of movies in the 90s, like in late 90s, early thousands. I feel like he was just
I mean, this made him very big.
I wish I could remember his name.
He's in X-Men. I think it's Ray Park or something like that.
Oh yeah, he was wasn't he Toad?
He was Toad. Yeah, he was Toad.
He was in that. But no, yeah, he did it. I think he did a good job as Darth Maul. He has like 3 lines.
But which is good because we don't need him to talk a lot.
Exactly. He doesn't need to speak to be menacing. They make him look menacing. That's enough. And I like the double-sided lightsaber. I don't hate it.
Oh yeah, like that became a meme, like because when people saw like the second lightsaber, people freaked out.
Well, I mean, like we hadn't seen that before. Again, an original thing. We hadn't seen that before. Like, and I don't hate it. I think it's cool. I think
it's super cool. Like it's a brilliant idea, actually, to turn it into a double-bladed polearm because it's like whoa, like
and like, it's just like, oh, you have that one-bladed lightsaber? I got this.
I got 2, and I'm a better fighter than both of you.
Yeah, and I can take both of you. Like he's yeah. I don't hate Darth Maul. I just hate a lot of other things.
Yeah. No, like you said, it's a great payoff because, like, again, we don't see it until the very end. See both sides because, like, when he fights Qui-Gon later, he only uses one side.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm just taking you one-on-one. I don't need to. I could, but I don't need to.
Yeah, I don't need to.
That's a very confident character. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So Padme and Qui-Gon. Okay, so they all end up on Tatooine. Ha ha ha. So this is another thing I kind of want to bring up. So, a lot of people have talked about like how kind of this whole movie series kind of doesn't. I think expanding the universe is the term people use. Or at least one of the ways I would put it is like going over the same plots in the same places over and over and over again.
Yes,
I believe in A New Hope, Luke, he what he says about Tatooine is like, if there's a bright spot to the universe, this is the farthest place from it.
This is the place farthest from it. Wait, aren't they the Outer Rim? Like no one gives a shit about them.
They are in the Outer Rim, yeah. I mean, their slavery is legal.
Yeah.
And it's run by gangsters and other, the Hutts. Yeah. So, but we keep kind of going back, and they keep going back even like it's 2022, and we're still
on Tatooine. We just can't leave.
Like yeah, I mean, there's a show on right now, 2022, and it starts on Tatooine again. And
then even in a new not A New Hope and The Force Awakens, she's on Jakku, which is basically Tatooine.
Yeah, Jakku. And what's funny too is like they kind of imply that Jakku is like more Tatooine than Tatooine, basically.
Yeah, so we're still on Tatooine, so it's not like we never left.
Because like in the second movie, he's like, where are you from, kid? Like I'm from the shittiest place in the world. I'm from Tatooine. He's like, oh, I'm from Jakku. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, Jakku. That is the middle of nowhere. So like they keep going back to the. But again, I feel like the first time where they really did that, the first sin was when in Return of the Jedi, the plan of the Empire was to make a bigger Death Star. That was their plan.
I mean, it didn't work the first time, so we might as well just make it bigger. That was the problem, though, dude. The problem was obviously size. It had nothing to do with the deficiency in your own schematics or blueprints or whatever. It had nothing to do with some tiny little error. No, it was the size.
That
was the problem.
So to me, like that was the original sin. And we'll talk about The Force Awakens, and we'll talk about how that movie basically just replicates A New Hope. But like, man, I'm telling you, like when George decided, how about the Death Star 2? Like literally, that's what it's called, the Death Star 2. And they come up with all this stuff, and like, you know, again, very good writers. They kept, okay, so why don't we have, you know, there's this forest planet, and they're going to create a shield, and blah blah blah. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the exact same. And to be honest, like when they have to blow up the Death Star 2, it's actually not as interesting as the Death Star 1. There's Death Star 1, there's some real dread. You're like, oh shit, are they?
Well, yeah, because there's suspense.
Yeah.
There's some suspense. And what I will say about Return of the Jedi, the suspense is replaced with the fear that main characters that we've come to love will die. Because you've got Leia, Luke, and Chewie on the planet with the Ewoks, and then you have Lando up in the Millennium Falcon, and I mean, I like General Akbar. I mean, he's just there, but like, I like him. It's a trap.
Yeah, exactly.
And we care about the rebels because they're trying to beat the Empire. So like the suspense is replaced with fear for characters, but it's just the same thing. You know what I mean? It's just Death Star Part 2.0.
Yeah.
I will say that I know a lot of people like shit on Return of the Jedi, but I love that movie.
No, I mean, I like it. I mean, it's definitely feels more of a well done film than some other films. I mean, better than most of these, the prequels for sure. Yeah, it's but again, like I was saying, like that's where the sin started. That's where they started like, why don't we just like kind of just do the thing we did before?
Because it's easy.
Yeah, it's an easy thing. Like
maybe no one will notice.
We know it works. We know people like it.
The thing is, though, I wonder how much of that is intentional and how much of it might just be accidental, because sometimes even I find myself reusing things that I've done before, and I'm like, oh shit, I've already done that. Like I literally just did that thing. I've had my characters have the same argument before. Like I gotta try to backspace everything, I guess. But like I'm sure it's not all by accident. I think I'm probably trying to give them like too much credit, but
yeah, I'm sure some of it was. But I mean, you know, I think he also had some other plans too, with what would happen with the Death Star 2 and the remains of it. But that kind of that's a thread that we're gonna talk about when we talk about the Rise of Skywalker.
We'll get to it eventually.
Anyway, so they're on Tatooine. They need to their drive is not working, so they need to get some parts for it.
They need to turbocharge that shit.
Yeah, they need turbo. So and then Padme wants to tag along, but Padme is like, you know, Padme is the servant. The servant Padme wants to tag along with you. Okay.
Okay.
Exactly. And then we meet the young Anakin Skywalker, and he's like very
sorry.
By Padme. He's like, "Are you an angel?" Blah blah blah, and you know he says all this stuff. But he's a slave, and like we also get this like awkward thing. It's like, "Oh, you're a slave." He's like, "I'm a person. My name's Anakin."
It's like, yeah, we know slavery's bad.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's really bad. I mean, he's a very self-aware, defensive little child, which, I mean, again, he's born into slavery. I think he has every right to be a little pissed about his circumstances.
Totally. Yeah, the other thing too is like, you know, there's been a lot of like, another thing that kind of gets talked about is like how these characters, like there's always, so like Luke and in many ways, well, definitely Anakin, like they're just super like overpowered from the start. Like this Anakin character, like he can do anything. Like he can literally do anything. Like,
yeah, he doesn't have to learn. He doesn't have anything to learn at all.
This Anakin, he's like 8 or something, and like the things we're gonna see him do. The things we're gonna see him do.
This is the thing, like, is he a boy genius? Is he just a good pilot? Like, is he just a sensitive child who's never seen a girl before? Like, probably not, honestly. Yeah, and they just he has to be one thing. I mean, you can have him be other things too, but it's just Also, this movie has no main character, which is really
It
um
should have been Qui-Gon, and this part of the film kind of really underscores that, because for this whole part of the film, Obi-Wan is gone. Like he is.
Obi-Wan does nothing. Like he just leaves him on the ship.
He leaves him on
And
the
I get
ship.
like you leave him on the ship to protect Padme too, like or to protect the queen, but you're not even protecting the right queen. You can't even keep track of who's who. You're supposed to be like these Jedis and shit, and you can't even keep track of who the actual queen is. Although I do have a suspicion that Qui-Gon knew Padme was the queen all along. I just feel like the way that rewatching it and how it's played, I feel like he at least had some, the way he talks to her, I feel like is still, he doesn't talk to her like she's a handmaid nobody. He still talks to her with a level of respect. Like I'm the adult in the room, even though I'm not acting like it because I'm a dope. Like, and he wants her to stay on the ship. Like, even if she was just some handmade nobody, like, yeah, stay on the ship. It's not safe. Like, so I kind of feel like maybe Qui-Gon had some inkling that there was some shenanigans going on, some switcheroos, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think Obi-Wan personally should have been already a Jedi Knight at this point. Not a Jedi Master. He doesn't have to be a Jedi Master. He still should have some things to learn as well. But I would have axed Qui-Gon's character entirely. Me personally, that's just me. I would have liked to have just seen. But then I wonder if you would have cast someone as young as Ewan McGregor, if you would have wanted to age him up a little bit. Like, I feel like it probably would have changed a lot of things if it had just been Obi-Wan being the main character. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but yeah, I feel like Obi-Wan should have played a bigger part in this.
Oh, for sure.
Especially this film too, because the other films do become more like he plays a big part, plays a really big part.
They become more Obi-centric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. But yeah, this section of the film, he is totally sidelined, and it's kind of detrimental. I don't know. The film has a lot of. I don't know how you unravel this thing and to fix it. I really don't know.
Yeah, especially since like it also just goes to, I feel like it just goes to show like Qui-Gon doesn't really give a fuck about Obi-Wan. Like he completely just is like, oh, Obi-Wan's fine. He's ready. I want this kid.
Yeah.
Like out with the old, in with the new. And I'm like, how the fuck does Obi-Wan feel about that? He's like, oh, I'm ready for the trials, but only because he's kicking me to the curb. It's just, and even in his dying moments, Qui-Gon's just like, train Anakin, and Obi-Wan's like, you've kind of been my mentor since I was like 11. Thanks for nothing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they from the same planet? They might be. I don't know.
Are they from what?
Are they from the same planet, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what planet Obi-Wan's from.
I think they might be. I don't know. Yeah. This part of the film, I think, is where it really gets muddled. It gets super muddled. So there's like a sandstorm. So like Qui-Gon and Padme stay with Anakin and his mom. I think her name's Simi. The mom's very nice. So then we see that Anakin made 3PO. Like this is another thing that he did.
Because of course he had to.
Yeah, exactly. He's done everything, and he's like 8. He's done everything. And then we get this funny thing of like 3PO, like, so this is like the first time that 3PO's met R2D2, and R2D2's like, hey, by the way, dude, you're like, you're naked, right? He's like, what? Like, yeah, your parts are showing. It's like, oh my god.
Ha ha ha.
So then we get this whole thing, like the subplot of this part of the film is going to be about pod racing. So Anakin's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's these pod races where like, because like basically they don't have enough money to like get the parts they need, so they have to gamble for it. And what's going to happen is they're going to gamble their ship for the money to get the parts, something like that. And Anakin's going to be the person who's going to like pilot their pod. So like if he wins, they win all the money they need to leave, or else they're going to be enslaved forever, basically. Yeah, and so that's fine, right? We're gonna have this 8-year-old do this illegal street race.
You're
Well,
so responsible, Qui-Gon. That's so
yeah,
nice. It's not like you're manning up and doing the job yourself or anything
yeah,
like that. It's just you're just gonna make a kid do it. That's really messed up.
yeah. And Padme's like, the Queen does not approve, and is like, well, she doesn't need to know.
Wink, wink, nudge,
Yeah,
nudge.
exactly.
She's like, well, I don't approve, and I'm like, Matt, Padme, just shut the fuck up, and just you're not in charge here, okay? Just shut up.
So then we get this interesting thing where like, so Qui-Gon again, like you're saying, Qui-Gon's like, oh, this kid's force sensitive. I can't wait to take him away.
Can't wait to exploit this.
Yeah. So and he's like, oh, well, who's his father? And he's like, oh, there was no father. I just carried him from birth. So this is like implying there was like an immaculate conception. Now I always like, this was interesting because like I remember talking with people and like people never like actually believed the story that she says here, which I thought was kind of funny.
No, I don't.
Like,
I don't buy it. I don't. I mean, even with
no, I mean,
only because I think the midi-chlorian thing is shit. Like
Yeah.
that's because I don't think that he just was. I just don't think that's true. I just don't think it's true. I think there's probably a darker story behind it, which is really sad if that's.
oh, you think that there
right.
was like, yeah.
I think there was a Sith Lord involved, and she. I just don't. I don't want to go into that because it's sad. But
Yeah.
like, I just the way the actress even portrays it is just like, yeah, I don't want to talk about this, so I'm just gonna say this happened.
I got you. I mean,
Also, she doesn't know Qui-Gon. Why should she tell him anything?
no, for real. Like I think the implication is supposed to be that Anakin is like this, I mean, he's again, there's this whole chosen one trope, right? And they're playing him into it. And so having him as an immaculately conceived person is another part of that. Now I know that
He's
there
a
was
Messiah complex. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
there was something in like there was some comic where they kind of go like show in detail that it was Sidious. I mean, it wasn't a sexual thing, but he did like create Anakin through her, so that would kind of make him the father in a way, I guess. I don't know.
It's still really dark and horrible, though.
Yeah, it's super dark. Yeah. I mean, everything that's everything that's going on with him is really dark. Honestly, like his whole, I mean, one thing I'll say is like George Lucas sort of saw these 3 films as a tragedy.
Oh yeah, I definitely see that. I see why it would be like like your Messiah is actually like Satan or some shit. It's just like, yeah, that sucks. And it sucks for him too, because you're told from the moment you're just discovered, oh, you're wonderful, you're great, you're the chosen one, you're this, you're gonna bring balance, you're gonna do that. And he's like, then why do I feel like I don't want to?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, then why do I feel so shitty all the time if I'm supposed to do these great things when I feel a compulsion to do the opposite?
Yeah, and we're going to see that the Jedi Order does not like him from the jump. They're
horrible to him.
And
I would not blame him for being angry at them all the time.
Yeah, they absolutely hate him, to be totally honest. Yoda and
Mace Windu especially dislikes Anakin. I mean, and the thing, and not without good reason. He's getting a bad feeling about this kid. He's like, I don't think this is kosher. And then, but he's being a dick to a 10-year-old, which is like just life imitating art and art imitating life. And it's not until like almost to the very end of Revenge of the Sith when Anakin tells Mace Windu, oh, it's Palpatine is really Darth Sidious or whatever, and Mace Windu's like, oh shit, man, like you're actually kind of cool. Like, cool. I'm gonna trust you. And then you're gonna cut my hand off, shove me out a window.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say about that scene is like, Anakin's like, at least, okay, we gotta arrest him. He's like, I'm not like Mace Windu are like, I'm killing this motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm not arresting him. I'm gonna go and kill him.
And that's when Anakin's like, whoa, okay, I don't know about that. So I don't know, like we'll when we talk about that, we'll get to that. Yeah, so Qui-Gon, then we get this other fun thing where Qui-Gon makes a side bet with Watto. So Watto was another thing people said, this is coming off a little like the cheap Jewish person trope. This is another problem people had. Anyway, so Qui-Gon and just to show how fucked up this whole thing is, like, hey, let's make a side bet over one of these slaves. How about that? And Watto's like, oh, okay, sure. And so what I like too is like, I didn't notice this until later. So like they make a bet, but it's a bet with a loaded die. So like,
yeah, doesn't Qui-Gon do some like he uses the Force?
Qui-Gon
Like,
uses the Force.
Straight up fucking cheats.
Yeah, I mean, so he cheats, but it's cheating with a loaded die, so it's a double cheat. So his cheating, exactly. They're both assholes. So his cheating was stronger. That's like the way I would put it. Qui-Gon cheated harder. It's like, well, why roll a loaded die when I can just control the outcome?
Also, can we just remember they are playing with human lives?
They are.
They are betting and cheating for human lives. Neither of these guys are good people. I mean, I don't think anyone's making the argument that Watto is a good person.
No, Watto is horrible.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a thing. And again, he's making an 8-year-old do a dangerous pod race.
Yeah.
So
one thing I will say, Anakin wants to do it. Like Anakin's all he loves racing and flying and
children love doing a lot of dangerous things.
So look, I mean, I'll just say this, like, does Anakin know that this race is for his freedom? Does he know that?
I don't think he does. No, I don't think he finds out till the very end when he's just like, "Oh no, I tried convincing Watto, but he wouldn't, he wouldn't
free your mom. So
he wouldn't include her in the slave package that I was buying."
He offered me another 5-year-old, but I wasn't interested because that kid wasn't strong with the Force, so I let him stay enslaved as well. Yeah. So then Anakin's like, "Oh, I've never finished a pod race, but I'll finish this time." And yeah, and they also, the slang term "wizard" is dropped here, which was funny. They brought it back in, I think, the Book of Boba Fett, actually, which was a really fun and funny moment when like Din Djarin says "wizard." He's like, he's in a Naboo. They actually dig up a Naboo starfighter. They dig up a Naboo starfighter. He's flying in the starfighter, and then the lady's like, "Hey, so how was that?" He's like, "Wizard." It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that was fun. So then we get this pod race scene. So I like this scene. I think this scene is actually really well done.
I actually do like this scene as well.
Yeah.
I actually like this, and you're actually showing me that Anakin can actually pod race. We don't see any evidence of anything else that he's good at, but at least we actually see that he is actually a good racer. I do like that because things break on his pod, and he has to fix them in the moment, and he has to like think on his feet, and like he's also an 8-year-old, and that's probably really scary. But I guess he's an adrenaline junkie at 8.
He's an adrenaline junkie at 8.
They actually prove to me that Anakin knows what he's doing and is good at it. I still find it very unrealistic because he's 8, but this is also a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago.
And the Force. That's why he's able to do these things. Like that's literally what Qui-Gon says. It's like when he's talking with his mom, he's like, Force sensitive. That's why he's able to do all these things that he's able to do.
Oh God. But I do like the scene. It's good.
So at the beginning, so there's this other like super famous pod racer, Sebulba, which is just like he's like this. Was he got 6 legs, 4 legs? It's like some little creature, and he just loves calling Anakin a slave, which is like another fun part of this whole thing. Makes him very hateable, which it's always good for a villain.
And he sabotages his pod.
He sabotages the pod. He's a dick. So we see Jabba the Hutt and his son. Jabba the Hutt sort of initiates this pod race, which is this fun. He eats a frog and he spits it onto a gong, makes a gong sound. That was fun. We get some more stuff again, Padme's like, "This is a really bad idea, dude. This is a really bad idea." And he's like, "The Queen trusts me," and she's like, "Oh, you assume too much," which is fun. So at the beginning, Anakin's pod falters because it got sabotaged. He's able to fix it. They start racing. He's way behind, but he's able to catch up. And we just see people dying left and right. By the
Oh
way.
yeah,
Like people are just like dying,
very dangerous.
like people are dying and easily. And then like, you know, another fun part of this race is like, so the Tuscans are there just like shooting at people.
Yeah, fuck it, why not?
Like, they're just up there taking shots at people. Like it's like,
I've never
okay.
seen that in Formula One personally, but you know.
I know. You don't even see that in NASCAR.
No, I mean I'm sure plenty of people bring guns to NASCAR, but like I've never seen that in
I
NASCAR.
there's a lot of guns in a NASCAR race. So then one of the arcs on like Anakin's pod gets disabled and he's spinning. It's like he's spinning out of control, and he's able to like stabilize it and regain control of it. So again, it's like, yeah, it's showing that he knows what he's doing. Like he may be an 8-year-old, but he can do anything. So then the race gets to the point where it's just Sebulba and Anakin, and then Anakin's left engine fails, and so then his pod starts to slow down, and so he's able to kind of he fixes it by like I guess equalizing the two of them. He like resets the engine, equalizes them. He's able to like troubleshoot it, fix it. He catches up to Sebulba. The two of them are like they get entangled, and Sebulba's pod just like explode. Like it's like one of the best shots of the movie. It just one goes this way, the other goes the other way, and it just like explodes. And Sebulba says Bantha Poodoo. And then Anakin wins and he's free. That's it. He's won his freedom, but he has to leave his mother behind, and so he has to let her go. And then before they leave, Darth Maul catches up to him. Anakin, he almost kills Anakin, which is like kind of crazy. Him and Qui-Gon fight outside the starship. They start getting away, and then you can already tell that like Qui-Gon's gonna be in for a bad fight later on, because like fighting him one-on-one, and he's like, when he gets in the ship, he's tired.
He's tired. He's exhausted. He's like, God damn, man, I've been drinking too much.
Yeah. And so then they get to Coruscant, and Coruscant is another, like, we don't really see a lot of it. There's a great shot in, I think it's the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, where there's this massive starship battle above Coruscant, and after like there's like this offensive where they take control of Palpatine, and you can see that it's a city it's a planet that's all a city.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is lit up across the whole planet. It's really cool. I always felt like Coruscant was one of the better ideas that we're introduced to.
Yeah, and it's home of like the Senate, and it's got the Jedi Temple and everything. No, it's got some neat stuff going for it.
Yeah. So they meet the Chancellor, and they also meet Senator Palpatine. This guy. So
I love democracy.
Yes. So Palpatine is like, they're just so ineffective. The Senate, they just can't do anything. It's just so, if only there was a strong leader who could, take action, just do what needed to be done, be decisive, and make the Senate great again.
Make the Senate great again. I've got hats and scarves and gloves.
Yeah,
I got all the
everything.
merch ready.
Yeah. So Qui-Gon meets with the Jedi Council, and he says, "Oh, the Sith are back." It's like, "Oh, this is impossible."
You QAnon nut job. There's no Sith. What are you talking about?
And then he brings in Anakin. He's like, "I found this kid, and he's really force sensitive. He's very powerful. I think he's the chosen one." Blah blah blah. This and that, and he needs to be, he needs to be trained. It's like, okay, bring the boy before us. And then, we get the scene where Anakin's trying to say goodbye to Padme. But Padme has to appear before the Senate. And so, he's like, "Oh, Padme, I sent her away, but I will let her know that you said goodbye."
I do love Natalie Portman's Queen voice. It's dropped really low, and it's like, I don't know if they had to digitally alter it or not, anything, because she's like a very young girl trying to portray a very deep, mature voice, mature like far beyond her age. And I will say, like, I do, because it's very authoritative for someone who is so young, and I do like that about the character. I thought that was a neat choice.
Yeah. I mean, she's a really again, we're gonna, there's the execution is maybe not there, but the idea is great.
Yeah, the idea is interesting. The idea is interesting.
And especially like seeing Pat, there's a moment in Obi-Wan where like Obi-Wan's basically talking about like, oh, Leia, you remind me of Padme. Like all this stuff. And it's like you can really see like how Leia and Padme they're very cut from the same cloth, and like you can see how Leia is the daughter of Padme. They're so similar, and
but they're not the same person, which is good. There's a clear, I mean, for all of the prequels' faults, and for all of, quite frankly, there's a lot of things I could say about Padme, but for all of their faults, there is at least a clear, definitive separation between, like, yeah, they're very much cut from the same cloth. Obviously, there's a lot of things that Leia has inherited from her mother, but they're very different. They're very different people. I think Leia is far more. I'm trying to use a word that's not going to make it sound like she's far more forceful. Like when she's bitching out Darth Vader in A New Hope, like that's freaking Leia. Like that is Leia through and through. She's not afraid of Darth Vader.
I think she calls Chewie a walking carpet?
Yeah, she calls Chewie Chewie can rip a guy's arms out of his sockets, and she calls him a walking carpet.
And she's like, "Get out of my way!"
Just want to get this walking carpet out of my way. Like, fuck yeah, Carrie Fisher. And like Padme is a little more refined. I think she's a little more refined. And I think she's a little more willing to play the game of politics. Leia does not have time. Leia does not have time for your bullshit. Give it to me straight. And Padme's like, oh no, like let's talk about this. Let's try and find some kind of diplomatic solution. And Leia's just like, we're on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. I'm like, bullshit, you are, girl. Like, girl.
Yeah.
Don't. So at least there's like, so they are certainly cut from the same cloth, but I do appreciate that there is a clear definition that these are two different characters. We're not just trying to recreate Carrie Fisher as Natalie Portman.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think fans would have accepted it. I mean, if that makes any sense, I don't know.
Yeah, I think fans. I don't know. I think people kind of like Padme. I think if we had to like say who had the best reception, I think it was Obi-Wan, and then maybe Padme.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't disagree with that.
After that, it's kind of
gets scary.
Yeah, it gets scary. So then they're in the Senate, they're like, oh, we recognize the senator from the sovereign state of Naboo. And she's like, oh, by the way, we got invaded. You guys didn't do anything. You guys need to do something now. The Chancellor's like, well, I can't do anything. I'm sorry. And then it's like, and again, Palpatine's like whispering, like, oh, see, he's so useless. He can't do anything, and the whole time he's like, oh, there needs to be a vote of no confidence. And so she's like, I say, I move for a vote of no confidence in the Chancellor. And so then they do that. They're talking later, and it's like, oh, well, the no confidence vote went through. And so, there's sort of like some rumblings about who will be the next Chancellor, and I'm one of the people who could be the next Chancellor.
I just happen to be a candidate,
like,
it's just
me. It's me and this guy from Alderaan and this other guy, and so I think I have a shot. So yeah, and then Padme's like, okay, I'm leaving. Like, I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. Like, I'm going back to Naboo to try and save my planet. And he's like, no, don't go. Like, just stay here. He's like, no, goodbye, peace out.
Peace out, Cub Scout.
Yeah. So Anakin is brought before the council, and they're doing this, like, I forget that there's like this pseudoscience term for it, but like the stuff with the cards, like, hey, what's this card? They're doing that with him, and he's always right, because he's definitely force sensitive. But then they're like, we don't want him to be trained, and Qui-Gon's like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, he's too old. He's too old for us.
This is too old for you? Shit. Yeah. I wonder what babies do that makes them so force sensitive. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. So Qui-Gon doesn't like this decision, so he's like, I'm going to take him on anyway. And so I'm going to dump Obi-Wan He's old enough.
Bye, bitch.
Yeah. He's he's old enough. So I'm dumping him and I'm taking this new kid. And then here's another fun part. Midi-chlorians.
Sorry.
Midi-chlorians. So here's my thing. So this is another thing that really pissed people off. We definitely never needed this explanation. This is unnecessary.
Absolutely.
But I always felt like the Force was very vague. It's a very vague thing, but like this is the thing about like kind of magical systems. Like for instance, in the Lord of the Rings, the magical system there is like very open. All kinds of stuff can happen. Like, they do all kinds of crazy. I mean, Gandalf dies and he comes back through magic. So all kinds of crazy shit happens. So sometimes magic is like science, and other times magic is just like there's faith.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I mean, midichlorians is it's a bad idea. It was unnecessary. So I guess what I would say the lesson to be learned here is like, if you're gonna go one way or the other, stick with it. Like, we didn't need you to explain the Force.
Yeah, I don't need you to dumb down telepathy to me. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, I don't need you to dumb it down and make it worse. Like, it's just okay. Just little things, okay. It's just fine.
Yeah. I mean, especially because like midichlorians is not the way we want to go if we're gonna be told something about this magical system that we hadn't really needed to know before.
Yeah, I don't think people really cared all that much.
No.
I mean, I think that people were just like, oh, it's like Yoda explains what it is. Obi-Wan explains what it is. Like, yeah, it moves through us and around us and is produced by all living things. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very like Eastern religion type of thing. Like,
Buddhist. It's very monkish and all this other stuff. It's like, it's just, I think we can surmise what the Force is. Also, we're just told what it is. I don't know why he needed to include this. It's just him over explaining something that is actually very simple that a 5-year-old can understand.
Yeah.
You see videos of little 5-year-olds walking in with like their little like Star Wars outfit and they're going like this to like the opening of the doors and like the automatic doors. Like, they get what it is. They can move shit with their mind.
Exactly. And but the really crazy thing is like midichlorians was like his whole idea for everything. Like, his ideas for the sequel trilogy all had to do with midichlorians, and it's
never mentioned again.
It's never mentioned again. No,
it's never once brought up again.
No, it's just it's unnecessary. It doesn't work. It pisses people off. It actually makes it more confusing, which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
it just makes it more confusing. It's like, meta what? Okay. Anyway, so then Jar Jar and everybody, they go to the Gungans to form an alliance. Amidala is sort of like, so at first it's like, it's the double Keira Knightley's talking. It's like, well, wait, actually I'm the real queen. Blah blah blah. We need you to help us, like, and then they're like, oh, Misa like you begging for our help. Like, that's basically what the guy says.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So then they have this plan. They have all this stuff they're gonna do. They're gonna capture the Viceroy. So they're gonna create a diversion, capture the Viceroy, get them to stop the invasion. Meanwhile, all these pilots are gonna go up and they're gonna destroy the mothership so that all the droids will be disabled. Okay, it sounds like a plan.
It's not a bad plan, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
I don't hate it.
Yeah. So they go into the hangar and they're freeing all these pilots or whatever. The pilots are flying off into space. Meanwhile, the Gungans have their army assembled, and they are met by a bunch of the droid army, so they're fighting. And and then Darth Maul arrives.
Oh my god, Darth Maul's entrance. I gotta like, if I had to pick out of this trash pile of a trilogy, the best entrance for any character has got to be those doors opening and Darth Maul's like, and the music comes up.
The Duel of Fates.
Oh my god, it's like how many fanboys made fan-made videos with that music? Like how I know I did. I'll admit it, I know I did. But the music comes up and that's just like, oh yeah. And you're gonna see a lightsaber fight that you have never seen before.
Oh, yeah.
They saved that.
The thing, the Duel of Fates is like, if I had to rank every Star Wars like theme, like every track, like that's way up there.
This is a really good piece of music that John Williams did. It's like it is freaking phenomenal. I honestly, like, I think he outdid himself with this.
He really
like,
did. Yeah,
is just and it's great. It's a Sith soundtrack, baby, and that's what it is. It's good. I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. And yeah, this was the moment that sold the movie, really.
And honestly, again, this is the payoff. This is the payoff for Darth Maul. Like one of the few things that this trilogy does actually follow through on is Darth Maul. And I'm like, cool. And I've never seen the Clone Wars show. I know he's supposed to be involved in it or something like that, but
he comes back. He's still alive and some other crazy shit.
As far as these prequels go, I think he did. I think he served his purpose very well, unlike a lot of other characters, honestly. And he doesn't even say anything.
Doesn't say anything.
He's just there being an acrobatic, cool POS.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the fact that he doesn't say anything is like an advantage. Like he says just enough.
Yes,
he says
exactly.
Just enough. He speaks with his actions, and he's a killer motherfucker.
He's an evil son of a bitch.
And like, yeah, he comes out, those things open. He's wearing, he's got the shroud or whatever. He pulls a shroud, and again, his head, there's like horns on his head. Like what? He pulls out his double-bladed lightsaber. He goes, bzz, bzz.
And then every like fanboy was just like, "What?"
Yeah. Just
I need to go
out.
to Walmart and get that.
Exactly. I mean, there's this really funny story. This is kind of related to a later film, but like it was like D.L. Hughley was talking about, like his son wanted the exact a replica of oh man, the Christopher Lee character. I forget the character's name, but like Count Dooku. He wanted Count Dooku's lightsaber.
Oh, because the hilt was like kind of like curved a little bit. That was an interesting design.
Yeah. And again, like, they do this on purpose because this whole thing is like to sell toys.
Oh, absolutely, just to sell toys for sure.
Toys is the money. That's where the real money's at. And like he just talked about like how he had to find that one lightsaber. It took him forever to find the actual thing that was a replica, not just like a lightsaber, but was the Count Dooku lightsaber that was like curved or whatever.
Oh my God.
And so that like people were like, I have to buy that. I have to.
Oh, for sure. We had the double-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
They like lit up and made little noises when they like tapped each other. Yeah. We had a bunch of those lightsabers. It was great. It hurt when you got whacked with one though. Oh yeah. Damn, that plastic hurt. Yeah. But yeah, no, this scene, honestly, like I love the fight scene between Darth Vader and Luke in Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi. But you can, there's not a whole lot you can the choreography was just very different, and you now have the benefit of being in the late 90s. They can do more things with it. It can be a little bit more, again, acrobatic and a little more fancy. And honestly, I'm fine with it. I think it works.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I feel like this and like you said, the one when Vader fights Luke in. Yeah, both of them are pretty good. I mean, I definitely really like the one. There's just a lot of emotional stakes in the one in Empire. Yeah. Especially at the end, it's like, Luke, I am your father, But yeah, this one, in terms of just like the pure spectacle of what they do, is just, I think the best one, really. Just everything they put into it is very impressive. The choreography is great. there's just all these really cool moments, and like they're jumping and shit. It's like,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Yeah, so then also Anakin, so he accidentally pilots himself into space, and so he's in this fight, and oh hey, who would have guessed? But Anakin saves the day and blows up the mothership.
Yay! Good for Anakin.
Yeah, good
I
for
mean, the funny thing about that scene is that Anakin doesn't want to be there.
He doesn't.
You know what I mean? Like the whole time he's like, I'm not supposed to. Like he told me just to stay inside the ship. He didn't tell me to fly the ship. I don't know. And it's autopilot, so he could get blown up at any second. That's honestly I think an endearing part about that scene is that he doesn't want to be there. He's like, there's a difference between pod racing and then being in an actual like battle. I mean, they're both pretty dangerous, but he's like, these people are actually trying to kill me
it's really
right
scary.
now. Yeah, so I actually like that about Anakin being stuck in the shuttle or the ship or whatever, is that he's like, I don't want to be here. I want to go home.
Yeah. So then in the Maul fight, so they get to this point where Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan get separated by these like giant energy doors.
It's like the Galaxy Quest thing. It's like, why is this here?
I know. It's just a plot thing. I mean, this is again one of the better, like actually one of the better moments in the film, because like the way that, so like they get separated and Qui-Gon just starts meditating, and Darth Maul is just like, he's ready
to go. He's just like, oh, fuck, you're meditating, man. I'm ready to do this shit.
So that's actually like, I think the payoff is good. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. The whole thing is just there so that they can get split up, and Obi-Wan has to watch Qui-Gon die. And
exactly. You need the no. You know what I mean? You need the classic Star Wars no.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Somebody's got to say it.
Someone's got to do it, and Obi-Wan does it in this one. So then Obi-Wan is fighting Maul by himself, and this is another, like, again, this part of the fight is really good.
Like, like the music stops and all you hear is like the bang 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 of like
it's really intense.
Lightsabers. You can see, and that's really Ewan McGregor like going at it with this professional stunt man. And it's very good. It's a little suspenseful. You know, Obi-Wan's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You know, there's at least some element of suspense that was able to be drawn from it. And honestly, I'm still grasping at straws when it comes to this movie, but like at least in rewatching it and knowing, like, you know, ultimately he's going to be okay, but that, you know, he's still young, and just watch it. He's obviously being driven by a little bit revenge. Like, this is kind of a dark mad. Obi-Wan. He's going to kill Maul.
He's super mad.
Like, that's what I want from Obi-Wan, like the show. That's honest. I like watching it. I'm enjoying it. But every time I'm like, Obi-Wan, you need to get fucking pissed. Like, I just want him to get pissed.
You're really mad. Yeah.
I just want him to stop wallowing in your self-pity and just get mad. Like, that's what I want. But, you know, anyway.
Yeah. So then, like, Maul basically defeats him. Like, he's hanging from this, I don't know what you call it, but it's a pit. And
I don't know why it's
I don't know. I'm like, where are they? What are they?
I feel like it might be some kind of like reactor for the palace, some kind of like what's it called? Not a power plant, because it's connected to the palace, but I feel like it's some kind of reactor for power, communication, something. I don't know what it's supposed to.
Yeah,
there's why was there a giant pit in the Death Star that the Emperor fell down? Like, that made no sense. It's not that big. I mean, well,
I know.
Bigger.
By the way, he lived through that somehow. Somehow Palpatine returned. We'll talk about that. Oh man, we're gonna get to talk. Did you ever do a video on Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
And it was not very nice.
I'll be entertained to watch that. Woof. So yeah, he's hanging on for dear life. He then does this force jump where he force jumps, gets a lightsaber, chops him in half, and Darth Maul falls in half. Like we see him fall down. We see him hit the side of the thing, and his body fly. Like, it's pretty. Like, that's an intense moment.
That's a dark moment for Obi-Wan. like that's pretty evil. Not evil. I'm sorry, not evil. That's pretty vengeful of a Jedi.
Yeah. It is vengeful of a Jedi.
He just kicks him down the hole. He doesn't even like let him fall forward onto the ground. He just kicks him down the hole.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too because like I remember as a kid watching that, you're like, whoa, dude, he split apart. Like that's like, but of course, when you're a kid, you're like, hell yeah, like you're happy to see it happen. But that's a really gory moment, like really gory moment. So anyway, so then Anakin blows up the whole thing. He gets stuck inside of the mothership, and then he like fires some torpedoes and then blows the whole thing up, and they're like, yay.
The kid did it, or I don't even know if they know it was him at that point, but yeah, they were like,
they do. There's this
victory.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, so like another thing that happened in this, so like in this film, in the theatrical, they use the Yoda puppet.
Yeah, in Disney Plus, it's not a puppet.
It's not a puppet, yeah. So the DVD, no, the Blu-ray. Yeah, it's like, why didn't they use the same puppet? What the fuck is going on?
I don't know why. It just felt
it's a different puppet.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know what I mean? Like, it's a perfect example of that. I don't know why they chose that puppet over the original puppet. I don't know. It just doesn't look good. It looks like a different. It not even a younger Yoda, because Yoda's always old.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, it just
looks different.
Look yeah, it's not.
It doesn't look like Yoda.
It's not cute.
No.
There is an element of Yoda in Empire Strikes Back that is absolutely. I just want to cuddle him. I just want to snuggle his cute little face.
Yeah.
And then
well, they monopolized on that because they created Grogu.
Oh yeah, and then you have baby Yoda or Grogu, and he's just
Yoda,
like,
yeah.
I would die for that little guy.
Yeah.
But this puppet was just ugly.
It's
ugly.
Bad. It's bad.
It's just like I didn't like it. There's nothing cute or cuddly about that Yoda. I don't
No,
know.
and it's so weird. It's such a weird choice that they made like why didn't you get the same puppet? What is going on?
Maybe they lost it. Maybe it's in a Smithsonian or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they lost it.
But you know what? Like, I swear in The Last Jedi, I think they got that puppet back.
Either they got that puppet back, or they actually maybe they made some kind of they may have remade it or made a replica of it because it looked better. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it was a silly choice.
It another one of the perplexing things. So then in the Blu-ray they have a CGI Yoda instead of a puppet Yoda. So I think in the third film, I think that the Yoda that they do, the CGI Yoda they do in the third film is like really impressive. There's a couple shots in there that are like really, really, really well done.
He's back to looking cute. Like even his grumpy face, like when he catches the lightning bolt from Sidious, and he's just like, he's all grumpy and angry. I'm just like, oh, you're so cute.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I don't take you serious.
He's very lovable. Whatever they still haven't told us what they're.
I hope they never do, because I feel like it'll be another midi-chlorians thing, and I'm just like, I don't care where Yoda's from. I just love his cute little face.
Well, there's not many of them.
No, he's a rare species who's probably super force sensitive, and that's all I need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Obviously, I'm not going to speak for other Star Wars fans, and I wouldn't ever, try to, but I feel like most general consensus is that it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, it would make sense to me if they were, maybe the race was dying out, or there were not many of them, or they don't reproduce a lot, or their planet was invaded or attacked or something.
Yeah, maybe it's like rhinos. It's hard for them to reproduce. It's difficult, or something like that. It's just maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's been very mysterious. And then there's Yaddle. We do see Yaddle, I believe, in this, who's the female species of the species.
Oh, she's not in the Disney Plus one.
She may not be in this. She may not be in. I forget which one Yaddle is in.
I remember her, but I don't think she's in the Disney, because I was looking and I don't remember seeing her in the Disney Plus one. I think they removed it.
Which, I don't know. I could get into a whole thing trying to figure this out, but Yeah, no, it looks like she should be in the first. Anyway, who knows? There's Yaddle. There's Grogu. There's Yaddle. There's Yoda. That's what we got. that's all we've seen. And one of my favorite parts, like in the cartoon, like the cartoon that was in the 2000s, was there's a scene in the Clone Wars where Yoda rides a goat into battle. Which is really
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. It's very cute.
Oh my god, when like I think it's Chewie and another Wookiee, like when the General Order 66 or whatever, and he's on Wookiee. Or what is actually the planet called? I don't think it's actually called Wookiee.
They're from Kashyyyk.
Or Kashyyyk, or Kashyyyk, or
Kashyyyk, yeah.
One of them.
I believe they're actually from Endor. They're from Endor, but that was Kashyyyk. I think was where that battle was happening. Yeah.
Well, anyway, like Yoda's with him, and he like one of them picks him up at one point, and he's just like holding.
Yeah, he's holding him.
That's so cute.
Well, they try to assassinate him, right? And then he chops their heads off.
Oh yeah, Yoda again. Yoda like Jedi can go pretty dark sometimes. Yeah. He just cuts their heads off after he's been known them for a while. Yeah, but I mean, it's not really the clones' fault. They're kind of programmed.
They're programmed, yeah.
They're programmed that way. It's not their fault.
But yeah, he kills him, and then he whatever it was Chewie and like another one, and then
he just
jumps on the other. Yeah, he crawls up on him. Yeah, it's great.
And I love that. Like the Wookiees are just like, yeah, we're gonna protect this little guy. He's like our bro. Like I love it. It's so great.
Yeah, I forget who the Wookiee saved Yoda. Who's that guy? Oh man, I forget. Oh, it's almost there. Tarful? Maybe Tarful? I don't know. There's actually another really good Wookiee in Book of Boba Fett, Black Chrysanthemum.
Really?
Yeah, he's kind of a fun character. That was in the comics that they brought in. Anyway, so everything's over. They've won. The good guys have won for now. Yoda tells Obi-Wan, I don't want you training Anakin, but the council is going to allow it. So, okay. So Anakin is now Obi-Wan's apprentice. At the funeral, he tells him like, hey, I'm going to train you, blah, blah, blah. He tells Anakin that. Qui-Gon tells Anakin. And so then it's Yoda and what's his name?
Mace Windu?
Yeah. They're like talking about like, they're pointing like, oh, but the Sith, there's always two, a master and the apprentice. I wonder who died, the master or the apprentice. And then it like zooms in on Palpatine. And the film ends with this giant like celebration with the Naboo and the Gungan, and they have this giant orb. I don't know. I guess that's the end of the film.
And then it goes to Narrow, and that's
the end of the film. Yeah. And then again, like what's interesting. I remember we talked about Star Trek 09 about prequels, because Star Trek 09 is kind of a prequel in a way.
Yeah, it's technically a prequel.
In a way. But like what's interesting about this is like we know a lot of what's going to happen. We know that Anakin's going to become Darth Vader. We know that Palpatine is Lord Sidious. We know that Obi-Wan is going to become Obi-Wan. He's going to become Luke's mentor. So he's going to make it to that point. So there's a lot of stuff in these where there's sort of a lack of narrative stakes, because like we know the end result. We're seeing the tragedy aspect of this. So it's always been kind of an interesting thing, because like again, we know, and another thing we know is that Anakin, this kid, is going to end up with Padme. They're going to end up having kids that are going to become Luke and Leia, which makes this, I don't know, it's a little weird at this point, because there is an age gap and she's older. But I don't know.
I mean, if she's 14 and he's like 8 or 10, that's like a 6-year age gap. So by the time they meet again, she's in her early 20s. He's like 18.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I mean, it's like, it's weird. Like there's a 6-year age gap between Ryan and I. There's a 5-year age gap between my sister and her fiance. It's what I like about what I, well, not like, but what I at least appreciate with the Phantom Menace and Padme and Anakin's relationship is that it really isn't anything romantic. There's no like, I mean, he calls her an angel because he's probably never seen a girl who's that cute before. You know what I mean? He's probably never seen a girl that cute, like of any kind. So it makes sense that he'd have like a crush on her or something like that. But it's not like an inappropriate like Romeo and Juliet thing where he was like 18 and she was like 12 or something like that. There's nothing romantic about it just yet until we get, unfortunately, to Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones, yeah. 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 So, any other overall thoughts about this film? So, like I said before, like for me, you know, I do like. I think I saw something where they said that this film has the most miniatures of any Star Wars film ever. Actually, so like, you know, the arena where they did the pod race, that whole thing was actually a miniature, which is cool. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff in this. I think that the problem was the plot. The plot doesn't work. Like you said, there's no main character, there's no protagonist. There's just a bunch of people, which leaves you kind of, it makes the film aimless in a lot of ways. But you know, for a Star Wars film, it's fun. I think this is my dad's favorite Star Wars film, actually. Like, now that I think about it. But you know, it's got some problems.
Oh yeah,
it's got some problems.
Yeah, it's got a lot of things that are bad for it that will continuously work against it. Yeah, I just don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
It's just a sad state of affairs.
What was it? So you kind of keep referring to some things about Padme.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to do you want to continue down that? I'm kind of curious.
I just want to know what's wrong with Padme. Like, so you're telling me that this girl who's like 14 years old has been doing nothing with her life other than be in politics. That's it. That is it. And then in the second movie, she's like, "Oh yeah, we used to come here when I was a child." I'm like, when? You've apparently just been a senator your whole life, and all of a sudden you're an elected queen, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like she had no childhood. She has nothing else that interests her, or it's just. I mean, if she's just a lifelong politician, that's fine, but that just seems really depressing to me. It's no wonder that her relationship with Anakin is cringy because they've never had any other adult relationship other than with each other, and all he's ever done is idolize her and put her on this pedestal. So the moment another dude comes for tea and crumpets, he's like, "Was Obi-Wan here?" It's like, you're that insecure.
Yeah, he's super.
And she's codependent, not codependent. Enabling. I think she's highly enabling.
Well, when we talk about Attack of the Clones, like it's kind of funny because it got co-opted into this really weird meme, like one part of their conversation, because he's very like Anakin's very red flaggy.
Oh yeah, he's very disturbing. Like, he's every guy in high school I wanted to stay as far away from as humanly possible. It's like, you're telling me you love me after like 24 hours? That's creepy. Like, that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like, again, like we'll talk about it, but like there's a conversation where he's just like, you know, very fascistic. And she's very not, but she's like then fine with it, and then they have kids together. Like, what?
Yeah, it's not a believable love story at all when all she's been doing is just, and I don't understand the whole like we can't be together thing because of the Jedi. I'm like, you're telling me a Jedi's never had a wife before? I find that very hard to believe. I find that extremely unlikely and unrealistic. It's bullshit. And it's just like, oh, they just try and promote this Romeo and Juliet thing. And I'm just like, it's not though. She seems totally uninterested. If there was any kind of reciprocation from Padme's part, which there is not until they're about to get eaten to death by monsters.
I know. Yeah. That's like the moment she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die, so maybe I'm gonna make out with this dude."
It's just like, I don't. It's not believable. It really isn't believable. Like, the second she sees him, she's like, "Oh, you'll always be that little boy from Tatooine." It's like, thanks. That's like,
Yeah.
that really makes me feel good about myself. I did my braid just for you, Padme, has a little twist in it just for
Yeah.
you. And it's just like, no. And then he's just like, then he tells her like, I love you, but it's killing me. And I hate myself for loving. It's like,
that sounds like a murder-suicide waiting to happen, right?
it sounds very toxic. And I think she's enabling and is kind of an idiot towards the end. And she's like, no, Anakin hasn't been acting weird at all lately. No. She's totally fine with him murdering Tusken children. Like, that's okay.
I know that is so weird. Like, no, Anakin never like one of the first conversations you had with him on your little cute getaway was how he was like, I believe in dictatorship. Like, that was exactly what he says in that conversation. Like, I believe in dictatorship, and if people don't do what you say,
then you should make them.
You should make them.
You should force them to do what you want them to do. And I'm like,
oh, what? I'm sorry?
And I'm sorry, if she's into that, then there's something wrong with her. There is something wrong with Padme if that is what she is into.
Within the least, she was willing to just kind of ignore the obvious red flag. And not even like, it's just like, okay, if you're gonna go with the toxic relation, okay, but don't be in denial about it. Like, obviously the dude is off his rocker, so yeah, don't be surprised when he kills kids and he does the school shooting. Like,
yeah, it's just like
obvious. Like, he's got everything you need for the lone wolf crazy guy. Anakin has all those things are there with him.
Yeah, and obviously, like when you fall in love for the first time, you don't always, excuse me, you don't always see the red flags, but he's very open about every red flag that he has. He's okay with the dictatorship. He thinks you should force people to do what they don't want to do, to serve you, which is ironic considering he came from a slave planet. Which is totally counterintuitive to his character. He should not want to work. He should not agree with anything that Palpatine is saying. Excuse me. He murders children again.
Yeah.
More than once. And I know we had briefly talked, I think last week, about whether or not Anakin maybe had given them a choice, like, oh, you can, but he still murders them. The ones who choose not to follow the dark side.
Yeah. It seems like especially with Obi-Wan, it seems like they're implying that there were some people who were going to be whisked away. Who? Because like, again, we see Kylo Ren basically do the same thing. He kills a bunch of people, and then the Knights of Ren are the people who turn.
Yeah, and it's just he's also just incredibly irresponsible. And again, girl, if that's what you're into, that's fine. But don't be surprised when he chokes you to death.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Although they do say that the death was like sadness or some other kind of bullshit.
Bullshit. He choked her and made her lose oxygen, so she's getting oxygen to her brain. The fact that she was even conscious during the birth is incredibly surprising. Like, no, you choked her to death. And then that probably caused complications during childbirth, and boom, she's dead.
Yeah.
Died of sadness. Go fuck yourself. Like, no.
I know that. She died of sadness. That's ridiculous.
Then you know what? I'd be dead a lot. I'd be dead a whole bunch. That's wild to me.
That like, she was too sad. I mean, it does happen. It does happen in some extreme cases.
Oh yeah, like elderly couples who have been married for like 70 years, and that is their person who has been their person since they were like babies or whatever.
I mean, there was a traumatic event that happened recently where the husband of someone.
Yes, no, exactly.
You could see him laying a wreath at her grave, and then like a day later, he's dead. Yeah,
he's dead. Well, I mean, I would also contribute that to a great deal of stress as well, and stress, heartbeat.
I mean, stress really kills people.
Exactly, and that is absolutely horrible and terrible. But in this scenario of Star Wars, it's like, no, you choked your wife to death.
Yeah, you choked your wife to death.
Which is crazy because that's one of the biggest things that happens in domestic violence cases.
I know.
Violence or being strangled to death. Crazy.
Yeah, you know, the thing we to really talk about too is like, do we feel like at the end of this whole saga that Anakin is redeemed in a way that he like does he deserve for us to feel like, you know, he's a good person at the end of this whole thing?
Honestly, no.
Yeah, because like at the end we see him, you know, we see his Force ghost, and you know they did another version where it's what's his name,
Hayden Christensen.
It's Hayden Christensen. So that other guy in Return of the Jedi.
I mean, after the episode of Obi-Wan, I'm just like, Luke must have dug deep. He had to dig deep. And obviously it's implied by the time we meet like a character like Darth Vader, like, oh, this is a scary guy. He means business. He chokes someone to death with his hands. He doesn't even use the Force. He's using his brute strength to strangle someone off their feet when he gets on Leia's ship. So we already know that this is a guy who is not afraid to get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
He literally raked Obi-Wan across the coals.
Yeah, he did.
Like, he literally did that.
He did.
And to lure him out, he was strangling people to death.
Yeah. like kids.
Like kids. Like he snapped one of their necks, like he like trying to save his dad or something. He was like, this is an evil person. Yeah. And it's not because he's emo about murdering his girlfriend. He's just, I'm genuinely like
evil.
He's genuinely evil, and
he rebels.
I'm actually wondering if he even deserved to be redeemed. You do one good thing, and then the whole slate. It's like when people go to confession. I'm just like, so you can be a horrible person, and you go to confession, and everything's fine. That's removing responsibility from a human being who should be held accountable, and which is another reason why I hate religion. But like, it's just, I don't know. They're making Vader do some really bad things that are unforgivable.
It's got to be earned.
Wasn't enough though?
It takes more than throwing the old dude over the cliff to really earn it.
Yeah, because it's just he's eliminating the person who manipulated him into becoming Darth Vader, but he was always capable of being Vader. Like, clearly, I think he was always capable of being Vader. So he's not even taking responsibility. He's just killing the guy who he's blaming for his problems. So in a way, I think it's kind of making me look at the end of Return of the Jedi a little differently. And honestly, it makes me look at Luke a little differently.
I know. Although Luke made the right choice for the whole universe, you know, because I mean, Palpatine was destroyed. The Empire was destroyed.
That's true. And honestly, he has to be better than Vader, which is don't take your father's life, you know, try and redeem him, be better than your father kind of a thing, you know. Otherwise, you're just like Luke has that moment when he's going to kill Vader in Return of the Jedi, and he looks at his hand and he looks at his dad and he's like, oh, I am this close to being Vader. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and that's what's so brilliant about especially Empire Strikes Back. All that stuff, like that cave moment where he sees Vader, strikes Vader, and then it's him. It's himself.
I love that scene.
Yeah, and so the whole point of that test is that you have that evil within yourself too. And if you strike out in fear and anger and hate, you are creating the evil. And so the Jedi has to learn to overcome that.
And be better.
Yeah.
I dare you to do better. As Captain Pike would say. Yeah. Alexa, turn off the main light.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I feel like between killing the kids, choking out your wife, killing tons of people. I mean, this guy has he's killed a lot of people. This Vader,
endangering the lives of his unborn children.
Yeah, I mean, killing the Tuskens, and the Tusken killed women and children mercilessly.
Yeah, an eye for an eye. The whole world goes blind, dude. It doesn't make what they did. You're not justified. Like, I think it's horrible what happens to his mom. Obviously, any sane person would think it's horrible what happens to her. But like, you're not justified. at all. And it's just a bad dude. Born under a bad sign, man. Just
yeah.
And again, just endangering the lives of your unborn babies. You don't care about life, obviously. Which I always actually thought, like, Padme didn't look like she was pregnant, like full term pregnant. Like they're obviously using like not premature babies, but I always got the impression they were premature because like she didn't look like she was 9 months pregnant. Like say like 6 months. But like that's still horrible to think about. It's like, bad dude. Bad dude.
Yeah. So let me just read some stuff from this article that I got about sort of some of the stereotypes in this movie.
Oh, Lord.
What George had to say about it. So there's been some controversy over whether several alien creatures reflect racial stereotypes. For example, the oafish, slow-witted Jar Jar Binks has long dopey ears reminiscent of dreadlocks and spoke with what many perceived as Caribbean patois of Jamaican Creole. Drew Graham describes the character as servile and cowardly, a black minstrelist stereotype on par with Stephen Fetchit. The professor of African American Studies, Michael Eric Dyson, says that the entire Gungan species seems suggestive of a primitive African tribe, with Boss Nash portrayed as a fat, bumbling caricature of a stereotypical African tribal chieftain. The Gradian and corrupt Nemodians of the Trade Federation have been noted as resembling East Asian stereotypes, and the unprincipled trader Watto has been interpreted as a Jewish stereotype, similar to the Charles Dickens character. Lucas has denied all these implications, instead criticizing the American media for using opinions from the internet as a reliable source for news stories. Lucas added that it reflects more on the racism of the commenters than it does on the movie. Okay.
I mean, that's one way of like defending yourself, but sounds like he's just saying fake news.
Basically,
it sounds like he's just saying fake news, opinions on the internet, blah 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 blah. It's like
one of my favorite things too. So like they interviewed George at some point, maybe like 2018 or something like that, and he referred to Disney as white slavers. I swear to God, he did.
Some people just shouldn't be interviewed. Some people just
he's got a lot
to talk.
Yeah. So any parting thoughts on this film, Phantom Menace?
Watch at your own risk. The few things that good things that I had to say about it, I was grasping tremendously. However, I will say, I think that even though we both have a different opinion of this film, I feel like we had a really good, positive, and civil discussion about it, which I think is just proof that it can happen within the fandom, quite frankly. And I'm proud of that fact. I'm proud to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, the things what I like about this film is like it does, from all the prequels, it has a look and feel that feels more in line with the original trilogy than the other two. The other two, you can tell they just green screened everything. Everything was a green screen, basically.
They just painted it at that point. Just leave it up. Just leave it up. Imagine the yards and yards and yards of green screen that they had.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, totally. And so I like that. You know, you can really feel it. I just feel like you can feel it in the film. You can feel like, oh, that explosion felt like it was a real thing because there was a miniature that they blew up. All this other stuff. I really like the pod race. I think that's I
agree.
It's great. I think that the fight scene with Darth Maul is really, really great. I think it's really aesthetically, it's like the best lightsaber duel that we get. I think that the one in Revenge of the Sith is really good too. And it just like, it's just so unfortunate because there's so many things he gets right, but there's just so many things that just go wrong in the end of it. Like the Mustafar fight. It's brilliant. Like they're fighting on a volcano planet.
Oh yeah, and I love the moment when Anakin just like grabs Obi-Wan around the throat and is bending him backwards, like, and he's got the lightsaber and he's choking him, and I'm just like, holy shit, like that's actually I like that. Like that's pretty good.
It's really
but then you are my brother, Anakin. I'm like, oh.
And it's just, again, the fact that they're in a green room just doesn't help. Just doesn't help.
Yeah, and it does
take something away. It just takes something away.
I agree, and unfortunately, like, I can watch a movie and just like be involved in it and engrossed in it, but then when I watch like the prequels, I get taken out of the moment remembering, and obviously they couldn't actually have a scene in a real lava lake or river or whatever. Obviously I know that, but I get taken out of the moment. I'm like, yeah, they're just two dudes with plastic sticks hitting each other in front of a green carpet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I find myself being taken out of the moment from it.
And it's disappointing because it's really like very operatic and tragic and smart, and it's like it makes sense. Like the story ideas are all there. It's all there. Just the execution didn't. It faltered on what could have been a great story.
Yeah.
Or at least been better, you know. I mean, there are people who like the prequels. I like any Star Wars. Is this my favorite Star Wars? No. But you know, it's a thing, so it is what it is.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about Star Trek. Like I like all Star Trek, but not all Star Trek is my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, some are better than others, but all right. Well, until next time, everybody. Thanks a lot. Thanks for stopping by, and take care. May the Force be with you.
Live long and prosper.